This is our last panel presentation today on future perspectives for Stella Maris, although we have already started to discuss future perspectives. This is an opportunity to advance on these views. And we have at least two panelists. One panelist is missed, but we will start anyway with Deacon David Noval. Deacon David Noval is a firefighter and is also a paramedic doctor. So this is why probably he has been so successful in starting a new mission for Stella Maris in the Nordic countries. So he has several management and board experience, and currently is the national director of the Nordic countries: Denmark, Sweden, Norway, Finland, Iceland, Faroe Islands, and Greenland since January 2021. And he will be speaking about how to start Stella Maris national or multinational, in this case, organization. Because you know that we have to leave at 5 and we have to finish by 4:30. I will just give you 15 minutes, so I have to cut you after 15 minutes in order to be ready for departure. So, David, the floor is yours.
Thank you all, thank you for inviting me to come here, and thank you for putting me into this wonderful mission of the seafarers. 2.5 years ago, Deacon Nick, senior port chaplain, south of England, we were studying to become deacons at Oxford and Birmingham. Nick was a year ahead of me, and 2.5 years ago he contacted me and said, "Can you open a door in the Baltic area for Stella Maris?" And I think I said, "Stella what?" I didn't know anything about Stella Maris. I didn't know anything about Apostleship of Sea, as I guess most Catholics in the Nordic countries. And as I think my thought was, yes, I have big feet. I've been a firefighter and paramedic for 20 years. I can kick any door in, trust me. So, of course, I would like to, and he talked about it, and I watched, I guess, all YouTube films on the internet and read all about Stella Maris, and from each word, my feeling for this mission grew and grew and grew. So I'm standing here today. And it was absolutely not what I wanted to do as a deacon, starting off the formation program. My older brother, he's a parish priest of Greenland, he always says, never tells God what you would not like to do, because it is always what you would do. God have other plans. So I'd like to talk about 3 ways of opening doors. The 3 ways I have opened doors or entered doors. There was especially one door I had to kick in, and that was the door of the diocese, unfortunately. In the Nordic countries, which area actually from Finland in the east to Greenland in the west, it's the same distance from London to Pakistan. A short area. The number of Catholics is about 0.5%. So it's a very small church and a church with a little less than 0 fundings. So it's not, deacons is not always paid by the church. And they said, well, yes, we know about Stella Maris, but it's up to every parish priest to support the seafarers in the ports where the parish are. So actually nothing happened. I found out that in the last 40 years, Stella Maris have tried to get in touch with the diocese, with letters, with email, with phone calls, to be established, to also if there was a vessel, the seafarers in need of aid, and the answer was always the same: contact the local priest. So I saw this was really important to start up, and I said, yes, I would love to do that. I met Martin in Birmingham, and we had a wonderful talk about this, and he also offered some financial support to start up with. And because of that, I can stand here today. So kicking in the door to diocese, it was the first thing to do, because obviously I should have the yes from the bishops. And when he saw that he should not put any money into it, he said, okay. Yes. The next thing is just open the doors, not keeping into the parishes. Letting all parishes, parish holders know about Stella Maris, about this wonderful missionary, and nobody knew about it. So they are always welcome, and getting arranged and finding this really good. I don't have to kick in the doors, just opening them, opening the eyes of the mission of seafarers. And the third kind of doors was actually already open. I have just to enter them. It is the doors of all the maritime industry in Denmark. I haven't been in other countries yet, in the Nordics, but the doors of Maersk, which is the second largest shipping company in the world, they were open. They were filled with joy to engage with us. The doors of pier nightclubs, many different, are welcoming us, and many ports, port captains, port managers saying, you don't have to tell about Stella Maris, I know about Stella Maris, I have been a captain myself, so please come and take care of our seafarers, it's needed. So getting organized is absolutely also an issue, getting volunteers. Thanks to Caritas, Maria from Caritas, sitting here, and some of the volunteers volunteered for Stella Maris ship visiting. And at the moment we are about 55 volunteers in Denmark, from people who are ship visiting, people who have done the course and are ready to start with ship visiting. Someone is doing the course at the moment, and also other people. Knitting groups in the parishes, and the ladies there are so joy to knit for the seafarers and praying for them at the same time. I also have a psychologist saying, I'm too busy to visit ships, but please give me a call if any of the ship visitors have any issue after visiting a ship, need someone to talk to, I will be there for you. And that is what I'm saying as well as Stella Maris. I also found out that in many of the ports in Denmark, there were Filipino, primarily women, doing a lot of work already. In the port of Fredericia, one of the many small ports or big ports in Denmark, I think maybe in Denmark there's not more than 30 kilometers between all the ports. But there is a Filipino woman having a Filipino shop, food shop with crisps and juice and rice and whatever. They come from Asia. And she has, and her husband have a food truck. So whenever there come a cruise ship to the port of Fredericia, they'll be cooking Filipino food, driving to the ports, putting up Filipino and Danish flags, and now Stella Maris logo. And the Filipino crew comes down and gets the Filipino food. They can have all the nice food they have on the cruise ship, but it's not Filipino food. So they come to the Filipino food truck to talk with the Filipino volunteers, and now they're going to have Stella Maris magazine. And I was there during this summer. I showed that to the Filipino woman, A Filipino seafarer came to me, an officer, and said, "Oh, Stella Maris, thank you so much. You came to me during the pandemic and supporting my family with fundings, and that's saved my family. It's all worth it." It gives so much joy to do this work. Of course, there is many difficulties as well. All the needed paperwork, the articles of association, whatever needed, it takes time. We have been working for that for 1.5 years now. I think we are on version 15 or so, and it's still not quite settled. Every time a new lawman or accounting is coming into it, it changes. So now it's stop. We have to move forward. And funding is particularly a difficult thing. I think all of you know that. Or everyone says, this is very good, this is very important, you shouldn't stop because of funding is lacking, and you should get a lot of money because in the Danish maritime world there's so much money. Lots and lots of money. But they always say, try the next door. But I'm sure that this is the will of Christ. I have a really strong feeling that He's walking at my side, and He is walking at your side as well. So trusting in Christ, trusting in God will lead the way and bringing the ship of Stella Maris in any Danish ports as well. One of the most important things I actually did also, by support of the London crew, is also connecting. Each Wednesday there's a Stella Maris prayer online, and that is so good, being a part of the big family. Sitting alone in Denmark can be difficult, but knowing that there's so many people praying together for the mission of the seafarers is so important. Also connecting with the Philippines in the parishes is very important, because they have a very strong network. And we had a reception in Copenhagen, inviting the industry and inviting the Philippine embassy as well. And we have a very good connection with the ambassador of the Philippines, and they are most supporting, saying, if there's anything we can do, should write on the Philippines in an area, let us do that. We will open the doors for you if it needs. So the Philippines are a really important co-worker in this. In Greenland, for example, in Greenland 1% of the population is from the Philippines. And if they know Philippine seafarers coming in Greenland only by the cruise ships, they are volunteering to meet them. They would so much like to meet Philippine people everywhere in the world. Also, I think that's enough.
Thank you, David. I think this is so encouraging. Just 1.5 years from no mission in the Nordic countries to one national director and 55 volunteers already visiting ships, plus others making food and welcoming seafarers. So this is really a lesson on how to open doors. Thank you for that, David. So we have now Father Giuseppe Mazzotta, who has been vicar cooperator in the parish of Maria Assunta Mother Church of Augusta. He has collaborated and he founded the Apostleship of the Sea in Augusta. Yeah? And you have been diocesan director for the pastoral care of migration. You have been chaplain, also hospital chaplain, and you have been parish priest for the new established Joseph Parish of Augusta. So you have a lot of experience of dealing with chaplaincy services, and the floor is yours.
I am Father Giuseppe Mazzotta, like he said. I've been involved in the apostleship of the sea for almost 40 years. 38, to be exact. It is close to my heart to bring this contribution to this World Congress for the growth of the Stella Maris, but also for the ecclesiological growth of the Christian community. Therefore, I would like to express you about this special mission in two parts. The first regarding the principles, the second a practical proposal. The first part. The Church, like Mary, must stand under the cross of the people of the sea. I make this a theoretical part because I think that an aim for the apostleship of the sea for the future is to help the Church to enter in this world. I have often repeated that the apostleship of the sea has been one of the flagship of the pastoral ministry of the Church. The apostleship of the sea's wonderful history spans 100 years and has touched the lives of millions of people, not only those who have carried out this pastoral care, but also the seafarers who have been encountered or accompanied freely and evangelically in every latitude. How much humanity, how much richness, how much beauty has been unleashed and filled hearts. How many wonderful stories full of authentic humanity. This is my opinion, but I think it is true. We can certainly say that the apostleship of the sea is the work and the masterpiece of the Holy Spirit. And I think it's correct that this Congress celebrates the masterpiece of the Holy Spirit. But the Congress, especially a worldwide one, is not only celebratory, but a moment of reaffirmation of one's identity, of charting the future path to be taken. We must take note that in one thing the apostleship of the sea has not fully succeeded, converting the Church in its various articulations to the interest, to the attention, and to the commitment towards the people of the sea. How many times in our meetings with frustration have we complained about this reality of disinterest and the lack of attention on the part of the Christian community? This sometimes even goes so far as to see maritime pastoral workers as the most fanatic, or people with a particular and extravagant hope. In our meetings, this has always been a disheartening leitmotiv. Although monotonous, this leitmotiv is in fact not unfounded, and above all it continues to express an absolute necessity that the Church, if it really wants to be as such, must see the seafarers and take care of them. Not that nothing has been done to raise awareness in the Church, but thus far the efforts have either achieved inadequate results or been insufficient. A rhetorical question: should we give up these efforts and lock ourselves into heroic self-celebration? I really think not. We need to question ourselves about this insensitivity, sometimes ignorance of the Church toward the people of the sea. Certainly, this ignorance or indifference also affects civil society, governments, institutions. I once wrote the fellows, this stranger. Unfortunately, ships stay out at the sea, away from everyone's sight, and do not pass through our streets. But if technological advances and their consequence are making this situation worse, because they reduce the seafarers' contacts even more with the people on land, making them even more invisible. But if this is serious in a civil society, it is much guiltier in the Church, which is called to see, like Jesus, what others do not see or ignore. And according to the spirit of the Pope Francis, to lay one's gaze in a privileged way on the invisible. If we read this in depth, what emerges is that the workers of the maritime apostolate have a twofold commitment to keep in mind, not one. Certainly to the people of the sea and their families, but also to the Christian community, to sensitize and to whom to bring the gospel of the maritime world. We have to help the Church to become the Church and the Church of Jesus Christ. This is aim, this is a duty we have, like Stella Maris. So I think that continuing this work of raising awareness and the commitment of the Church towards the people of the sea must be a privileged goal to be pursued by the maritime apostolate for decades to come. And we have to sensitize the Church, to continue to sensitize the Church. What a beautiful and profound theological insight to have dedicated the work of the apostoleship of the sea to Mary, Stella Maris. And now with gathering all the works of the apostoleship of the sea into this term, surely indicates a way we have to follow. This dedication to Mary is not a simply a devotional fact. Rather, it speaks of the intrinsically ecclesial nature of the apostleship of the sea. With Mary and like Mary, the Church is called to become the mother of all seafarers. Mary, mother of Jesus, by Jesus under the cross, is constituted forever as the mother of all men and women. At the supreme moment of the gift, both of the Son and of the Mother, Mary is made the mother of all men. She who remained under the cross of her Son to support him in his supreme moment of pain must now remain, and Mary remains under the cross of every man to support him in his suffering and sustain him in his strenuous journey toward liberation. But Mary is the church, called to remain under the cross of every man and support him in his journey. Either the church is like that, under the cross of every man, or it is not the church of Jesus Christ. The church is therefore also called to stand under the cross of the sufferers. If it does not happen, the church is unfaithful to Jesus Christ and unlike man. I don't know the most effective way to awaken the Christian community to the world of the sufferers. We must seek it together. It is urgent. It is necessary, both for the seafarers and for the church itself, so that it or she can be the church of Jesus Christ like Mary. This was the first part of my contribution. The second part is a concrete proposal. The bridging communities. In the motu proprio Stella Maris, the Pope John Paul II, in defining the people of the sea, broadens this concept that includes not only sailors, seafarers, and even retired seafarers, but also their families, students at the nautical institutes, those who work in ports, and those who collaborate regularly with the maritime apostolate. I don't think it is too forceful to include in this definition those communities whose work and economic and social life gravitate around the sea. I think that this idea, if embraced, can be fruitful with positive results towards the seafarers and can represent a possible way out of the situation of structure and marginalization to which the lives of those who work at the sea are relegated. On the one hand, it gives people of the sea strong roots and consistent representatives assured, and on the other, it empowers the latter to act as a trade union between those who permanently spend a large part of their lives at the sea and the communities ashore. This idea can also be transported to the ecclesial and the pastoral level. It challenges the diocese and the parishes with the territory affected by the realities of the sea and the work at the sea, in ports, dioceses and parishes that, by their nature, we can define as maritime. They must feel themselves according to the spirit of what the Pope says, part of the people of the sea, and in a necessary interaction with it. Until now, the apostleship of the sea has usually been the work of individuals, priests or lay people, who have dedicated themselves with great enthusiasm and the spirit of self-denial to this form of apostolate, which is considered extraordinary because it is outside the ordinary pastoral practice of the Christian community. I believe that the time must be ripe for the work of the precursor to lead to greater responsibility of the Church towards the seafarers. In this sense, according to the indications of John Paul II, the maritime communities, it means shoreline dioceses and parishes, must have a fundamental role to be bridge communities or border communities between the people of the sea and the people of the land. The bishop of a maritime diocese should personally feel himself to be the promoter of a maritime pastoral care. In turn, he will permanently assign to maritime communities, parishes, rectories, religious institutes, the task of maritime pastoral care. And these communities will be required to take up the pastoral load of the maritime world in its various forms. Depending on their local situation, they must prepare and assist those who go out to sea to earn their living, to support and organize their families, to welcome transient seafarers fraternally, and so on. Thus, the extraordinary pastoral care towards people of the sea, although it remains so due the nature of the maritime world, will be transformed into ordinary commitment, one of the areas in which the pastoral care of the Christian community is normally expressed. This is not the case today. Very often, inside dioceses and parishes, there is no awareness of the commitment they have to the people of the sea. There is like a caesura between the Christian community and the sea world. However, I think it is in this direction that we need to go. It is for the growth of this awareness that we need to channel all pastoral strategies and efforts of the maritime apostolate. In past years, a slogan was coined to stimulate a greater interest of the Church towards the people of the sea. To every port, its chaplain. I believe that to it, another one should be appropriately added. In every port, a Christian community that welcomes and takes care of the people of the sea. And this is the way also to give place to the apostolate of lay people, no? Give lay, because if our community feel that there is a duty also, like catechesis, like to take care about the seafarers, is the space where lay people can find, with also chaplains or in the various forms, they can give their engagement. And a place to, at the Eucharist table, in a broad theological sense, of the bridge communities, the maritime communities, must always be prepared for the people of the sea as well. And normally there is nothing to prepare for seafarers.
Giuseppe, yeah, for your input based on your own experience. We are going to finish this panel with Father Paulo Prigol, who is the National Director for the Philippines. He has been Executive Secretary for the Episcopal Commission on Migration and Engineering People in the Philippines, Director also of the Scalabrini Center for People on the Move in Manila, and Provincial Superior of the St. Francis Xavier Cabrini Province, covering also Australia, Taiwan, Indonesia, Japan, Vietnam, with headquarters in Sydney. Since 2009, he is the Chaplain and Director of Stella Maris in Manila and Director of the Scalabrini Center for the People on the Move. So, Father Paulo, we will be finishing with you. The pressure is on you to attend the Mass on time.
I stand here as just a chaplain. I'm not the national director in the Philippines, just chaplain in the Archdiocese of Manila. I do remember that in my young days, when the provincial or the bishop, they did not know what to do with a priest. I apologize for anybody else. But in case of the priest, they would assign the priest to Stella Maris, because he was good for nothing, so just assign him to Stella. Here I am. I think I can say this, I am a happy priest, and I am a happy guy to be part of this, I would say, wonderful team called Stella Maris. I was asked to share what is the password. So I will skip a few things and I apologize for that. This is going to be there in the book that the Vatican is going to publish. Probably nobody is going ever to read it, but it's going to be in the book. So we'll make sure it is there. During the pandemic, people needed to transact more businesses and more tasks online. They need to create and remember passwords. Honestly speaking, how many passwords do you have? How many do you recall? I have at least 5 pages of passwords. They are there. So I have here a number of things. Mind you that Stella Maris has a password. Before pandemic, guys, there in Manila, we used to have 250 seafarers a day in our centers. Now, just perhaps 120. It is our observation, what is the password, that our interaction as chaplains, as volunteers with them has changed a lot. Not that long ago, upon the arrival of a seafarer or official in our centers, after questions like, how are you doing? How is life? How is your deployment? How is your family? There would be a short dialogue, a few laughs, some orientation and guidance about the Stella Maris services. This initial non-password dialogue was important and crucial for a deeper interaction, especially on personal matters and issues. With this initial communication, the code was cracked. No password was needed or required. Indeed, social media platforms made communication easier, better, and faster. The irony is that at the same time, it is making our interaction more difficult, worse, and slower. Human interaction required a code very difficult to crack. The truth is, human interaction became like a password highly protected that requires to be entered and re-entered every time we meet a fisher or a seafarer. The world of passwords has become an environment that promotes individualism, isolation, and the feeling of being connected to the world, but perhaps disconnected to oneself, and who knows, disconnected to the Stella Maris team. No wonder why now some of us may experience that the first question of a seafarer or a fisher is, what is the password? Quote unquote, Never mind the old usual style of greeting people, never mind the one next to me, never mind the Stella Maris team, never mind the programs in services. You just give me the password and off I go. In the current social media universe, passwords are becoming the answer for any possible inner need or dreams. Is this an exaggeration, or is it part of the reality that you and I face nearly every single day? The present social media reality requires that Stella Maris provides free internet access to the people of the sea. And indeed, it is noble and a needed service. However, we do not want to pass judgment, but as chaplains and volunteers, let us think for a while. Are these seafarers and fishers in touch with themselves? Do they communicate among themselves? Do they really talk to their families? Do they still connect with the Stella Maris team? Or they get drowned and lost in the sea of websites and social media services? Since its very beginnings, the spirituality of Stella Maris focuses on the person, namely the seafarer, not on passwords. In these more than 100 years of ministry, the Stella Maris services have evolved tremendously. We just heard from these two guys. Simon Peter said, I am going fishing. More than 100 years ago, in this very city, Stella Maris went out fishing. And the gospel continues, and although there were so many, the net was not torn. This centennial moment in Glasgow is an evidence that we have become many, but the Stella Maris net is not torn. The initial inspiration and foundation remain intact, contrary to the world-oriented passwords. I will skip this part. So what is the authenticated password of Stella Maris? A breakwater wall is a permanent structure constructed at a coastal area to protect against tides, currents, waves, and surges. Seafarers and fishers are very familiar with it when leaving or returning to a port. Making use of the new logo and its meaning, if you allow us, please, we would like to see Stella Maris as a breakwater called walls. The walls, because that is the authenticated password. Let us look into our new logo. So, walls, the S. The waves of the sea, that is new in our logo, no? Symbol of the new conscience of caring for the sea and for those who live and work at sea. Let us provoke not only a wave, but a tsunami of conscious people supporting the people of the sea. How many times we have heard, no shipping, no shopping, no fishers, no fish. But how many of us said, thank you, seafarer, thank you, fisher? I do not know how many. Seafarers and fishers are not commodities. And in the maritime world, there are no strangers, only people we have not yet met. As Jesus said, I was a stranger and you welcomed me. The anchor, A, symbol of hope. COVID-19 has highlighted the isolation and the lack of shore-lived faced by many seafarers and fishers. A number of them contact the Stella Maris team for help seeking justice. Hope is the password we should provide to all seafarers and fishers arriving in our centers. After all, for seafarers and fishers, a Stella Maris center should be a home away from home. The lifesaver, L, symbol of faith. It is very sad when we come to know that a seafarer has taken an extreme action against his or her life. Again, the pandemic and the invasion of Ukraine have exacerbated this reality. We need to re-enter the password called faith, the lifesaver. Faith is further strengthened when the people of the sea experience appreciation and trust. Lifesaver means trust in God, trust in themselves, trust in the families, and trust in the Stella Maris team. The rays of light, L, symbol of the light of Christ. The Pope said, the life of sailors or fishermen and their families is very difficult. These people of the sea have to experience that Stella Maris is the lighthouse leading to Christ, the ultimate light. Light that cracks any password or code. A light that never fades, a light leading to a safe and final destination port. Finally, S, the Sacred Heart of Jesus. It is a symbol of charity. Stella Maris is a house of charity. As the saying goes, charity begins at home. We certainly face a stormy sea to be able to keep sailing and providing the password called charity, expressed in the variety of our services. Our ability to keep the so noble on enterprise, as Pope Pius XI said, and not to torn the net, it will depend on our capability to keep in touch with the seafarers and connect them to Christ. Last minute, conclusions. I was giving a deadline, no? Walls. These values, new conscience, hope, faith, light, and charity, emanate from Christ, the fisher. We believe that these are the core values of Stella Maris team. These are the basis and foundation of our spirituality. Last year, Pope Francis addressed to seafarers and fishers in these words. We have heard it, but allow me to repeat, please. You are not forgotten. We, as a Stella Maris team, must focus on the person, on the net of Jesus, on the walls, core, values, and spirituality, on the noble enterprise, as Pope Pius XI said, by creating a home away from home environment for seafarers, fishers, and their families. On doing so, we can truly repeat the words of Pope Francis, you are not forgotten. Therefore, should we change our password? Not at all. But what is the password? Hopefully, Stella Maris.
Thank you for